Hello.
Yes.
All right. Very cool. We have started the broadcast. I don't know if it's going out to the destinations, but that's okay. We have one viewer. Awesome. I like when people start these videos. They stand here and they just vamp for about a minute or two or three, hoping people come in and hop on and tune in. And I think we'll do the same. Anyone got any good jokes?
I got here 2 minutes early, and now you want me to wait longer.
We just wanted to be sure you were here, man. That's all.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's like watching paint dry, right?
I'm sharing that. I'm going to put it on Truth for those 7 guys.
Nice.
True story.
True
Well,
story.
like 4 of them are at the trucker protest in D.C., even though there's really nothing left to protest. So there's only 3 people on Truth right now.
What do you mean there's nothing left to protest? What happened? What did I miss? Was I in my garden all day?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, I haven't seen anybody wearing a mask in the U.S. for like the last 3 weeks.
Oh, gotcha. I got to wear one when I go to the VA.
Oh, I'm going to wear one on a plane, I'm sure, at some point again. I think I'm going to be on a plane before April, 18th?
Yeah, I'll be on one coming up soon. Hey there, Tab.
Tab's here. Mark Lindblom is here. He's a good buddy of mine. He's done some classes with Rob. Warsaw Patriots here. Dan Griffin is here.
Yeah.
Warsaw Patriot just popped in. And he says the X masks.
Oh, it's triple X mask right there. Triple S.
Oh my! He's officially done with the COVID BS. DJ Play Nice is tuned in, so which is cool.
He's one of our guys. I'll be up in Michigan with him during the tour.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. Mr. Snowmakes is here. All right, so let's kick things off
tomorrow.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, let's kick things off. So I am Charlie Cook. I've got with me Matt Mallory. We are hosting a show here live on all of our social media outlets. And tonight, our guest on our live show is Rob Pincus from I.C.E. Training, from PDN Network. He's worked with, I think, everybody in the gun community, in the gun industry.
Not Beretta.
Not Beretta.
Beretta, you're out there.
I know. You haven't checked the list
yet.
Yeah. Right. HMU. Hey. So Rob, we're glad to have you on tonight. Thank you for taking the time to join us and catch us up with what's been going on with you.
Whoa, just finished the Gunmakers match last week, and the second annual Gunmakers match went off on Saturday. It was awesome. We had a bunch of great weather, a bunch of great people. It's one of those things. Last year in June was the first one, and by its nature, that event was trying to bring together a whole bunch of people who really had never done competitions, never run big events, and it looked like some of them may or may not have ever actually done live fire with some of their 3D printed guns before. And yet we pulled it off. This year, it was like light years ahead, because the RSOs, the entities that helped organize and run, the volunteers, the events, and even the participants. We had obviously a lot of people that came back for the second year, and they had done their first competitions. You know how that jump from 0 to 1 is infinitely more important than from 1 to 2 or 3 to 5 or whatever. So it ran even smoother, and it was a great event. That was kind of the big thing in the last week, and it's amazing that was the big thing. And yet yesterday we did the live event to kick off the 10th year of the Personal Defense Network training tour. But that's going to really get rolling. So my first class is tomorrow, and that'll go on for the next 6 months. But the big event this week was definitely the Gunmakers match.
Speaking of the PDN, uno momento, por favor. Where the hell did it go? Never mind. Keep going.
While you're getting your thought, for our Mantis 10 giveaway, we are using PDN. If you didn't see that on the screen and you're listening, that is the code that you enter at meetthepressers.com/giveaway for your chance to win a $250 Mantis X10. Mantis, if you don't know, helps shooters suck less.
Yes, that's a fact. I've got a Mantis X10 sitting over there.
Nice. Me too.
My guns have to be so old. I don't even have a rail on some of the guns I have.
You can. I think you can just tape those on. I mean, I'm not a professional.
Yeah,
3M for them, but I think
bottom of the magazine.
No, there's one that goes on the bottom of the magazine. So I need to get one of these. I need to catch up with the cool kids. That's what I need to do.
We'll get you one, Charlie. We'll get you one. Let me make a note. Charlie.
Awesome, right? If somebody doesn't win one, then let's make sure Charlie does. How about that?
Can we
your screen goes blank? Well, it's because you're entering your own contest.
Right. Exactly. I'm not an employee. We don't get paid, so can I still enter my own contest?
Wait. Technical difficulties. Charlie's screen starts fading out, and audio goes blank.
Right.
That's like when you're talking about this whole thing with the one social media platform that doesn't want us to handle the things we're really here to talk about, right?
Right.
And a lot of that has to do with monetization and whether you're a professional channel or personal channel. But rest assured, we know that this is not a thing I can't touch, right? This is just a kit to potentially make a thing that I can't touch in a live video, and it's square, so I feel comfortable pushing that limit. Also, this isn't a thing that I can't touch, but I could see the ATF.
He's really pushing the limit. He's really pushing the limits there. Well, what did the ATF just change? Just came out today. Did you hear about that?
Yes. They didn't really change any. I mean, to be fair, the forced reset trigger, that's not a change. That letter that went out today, everybody's talking about, it really just makes it very clear. Hey, by the way, if there's a mechanical action that resets the trigger, hence forced reset, it's a machine gun, which I think most people who are into firearms manufacturing and design knew. It's very different from a binary trigger, but that one, was sort of written on the wall. So it's I feel bad for the guys that bought that thinking, oh, somebody's selling it, so it must be legal, like that mindset.
Oh, it's like bump stock, same concept of bump stock.
Yeah, and honestly, like, obviously, I'm not in favor of that regulation or that restriction, but the fact that it exists is still real.
I kind of wish I had the money to buy one just to have one, but then I'm like, oh man, if they keep track of who buys them and who they send them to, then I figured there's going to be a knock on the door eventually.
Yeah, I don't. There's a lot of doors to knock on some of this stuff, right? That was the big fear with like the build, buy, shoot kits from Polymer 80 was, and there was a scare that went around, which turned out to be completely unfounded. They're going door to door if you bought a build, buy, shoot kit. That was never happening. But I think that some people still think, well, gee, if I have a Polymer 80 kit and they ban any kits, then they're going to go door to door. I mean, eventually it gets to if I download a file and I have a 3D printer, they're going to come door to door. Like, eventually you kind of have to accept that they could come door to door because you took your catalytic converters off too. What do you want to do? Where's your line of civil disobedience? Where's your line of I want to be free? And where's your line of the risk is worth it?
Well, I usually tell my students that the law enforcement really don't give a damn what you have. It's when you do something stupid or illegal with it. That's usually when they're either pressed by a politician, their boss, somebody above, and the book gets thrown at you. So,
Well, and then the caveat to that is, yes, that's 100% true. But let's not forget the wonderful message that the ATF put out on Valentine's Day, trying to encourage people to turn in their exes. Right. So that's the other side of the coin. And I do warn guys about that. Like, I get you're not doing civil disobedience, right? You're not marching up the steps of your state capitol with an unregistered SBR saying, I want to be free and I will not comply. But if you're hiding high capacity mags under your bed, hoping you don't get caught, and the ex-girlfriend gets mad at you, or the girlfriend's mom gets mad at you and calls the police and says he's got illegal gun stuff in the house, you're still potentially getting that knock on the door, even though you weren't committing, violent crimes with these illegal items. So you got to think that.
What's interesting as you say that, it makes me think of how many people post stupid shit on the internet and just don't think that could be used in court. I mean, really,
there's a lot of foolishness.
I don't need a pistol license. Screw the government. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, I agree, but to post that on the internet is implying
everything. I don't need one, and I shouldn't need one. Right. And I think that's the problem. And honestly, like, I know you guys aren't this, but there are people on the YouTubes who kind of bang that shall not comply, will not comply drum. But like, they have registered SBRs, concealed carry permits, and they fill out 4473s for all those free demo guns they get from the manufacturers. And yet their followers and fans are like smashing the like button on will not comply memes. And I just don't really get it. Like,
well, we've had that conversation. We've gone back and forth on that conversation, and and until we had that conversation, my mindset was, "Oh, I will not comply." And you said that, and I'm thinking, yeah, but I do comply, so I should not have to comply.
That's hugely different, right? And I get it. Like, so for some people, it is in the future. Like, well, if they try to take AR-15s away, I'm not going to let them. Okay, cool. Like, I don't know that you need to announce that. I'm more worried about what you actually do on the day they say, "Hey, come turn in your AR-15s," right? Like, that's the real day that matters. You don't have to be hypothetical about it, especially if you're just doing it to get the likes, and followers.
Well, and if you're using your First Amendment right, and you're saying stuff that the government doesn't like, they're going to use that to get to your Second Amendment if they can. And that's perfect example here in New York State. There's actually a bill going forward right now where they want everybody to turn over their username and password before they can apply for a pistol license, and they're going to have the New York State troopers look at every post that they made public and private before they'll issue them a pistol license. That's actually a bill.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah,
that's kind of ridiculous. That's a Fourth Amendment violation as much as it is anything else. So I saw a comment come up. Warsaw said, "Really?" ? And I didn't know what he was talking about or asking about.
We'll wait for him to chime in. Well, firstly, you wanted to know about your water bottles being attached to threaded barrels. Speaking of 80%, I've seen the ATF is now purposing if a water bottle is capable of being threaded or attachable to a firearm by the definition of a firearm. I mean, what the hell? Where's the logic? So
I think he's referencing, like, if you 3D print an attachment, right, where you wanted to thread onto your AR-15 barrel, and the other end of it could be threaded onto a water bottle, which then could theoretically be used to suppress, either just as the bottle or with water or with other things put in it, that you've constructed a suppressor. If that's what he's talking about, that's been going on forever. I mean, that's been going on forever with oil filters used to be the thing. And I was allegedly experimenting with 22 caliber suppressors when I was like a teenager with, goofy, like, hockey tape attachments to the end of my 22 bolt guns. I mean, we all know that that's a problem and has been a problem forever, that kind of constructive intent enforcement or experimentation enforcement, which is why Avidity Arms has an SOT. So that if I want to experiment with that stuff, I do it under the manufacturing license to check the reliability of different types of things with the firearms.
So that being said, I have my Type 7 and I'm considering getting my SOT this summer. So, suggest that I remember, like,
if you're, so in the, this is just a thing, right? So this is a 3D printed prototype of a PD-10. I've got actual, like, pieces of a PD-10 here. As we develop that gun, one of the big things we have to check is, is it, if people want to suppress it, is it going to be reliable? What types of suppressors are we going to recommend? Is there a weight limit to this suppressor? We know it's probably going to need a piston device in there to make sure that it's reliable because it's a tilting barrel design. But testing all of those things is a legitimate reason to have an SOT tied to these 7 on those. I think, some people think it's just as easy as, well, I'm going to get an FFL, manufacturing license Type 7, then I'm going to get an SOT, and then all the machine guns are mine. And you still have to have a reason to be doing it that's tied to the manufacturing license. And some of that is articulation, and some of it is legitimate. Like, obviously, no one would question it. There's always the post 86 sample issue of, well, what if I want to get an MP7 in case my local police department wants to buy it? Mm-hmm. And what if I'm friends with the local police department and they're going to write me the letter, even if they may never actually buy them? I mean, a lot of that stuff goes on. I just think people have to be smart about, the way they really put their name on that license, and they show proper intent when they're doing the things they're doing,
Definitely.
Right.
Caveat, asterisk, as always, fine print, but there shouldn't be any of these hoops we have to jump through. But the difference between saying that and actually living a life and being able to have access to some of this stuff, like the suppressor that's on that thing back there that I'm not going to touch because I don't want you guys to get demonetized.
I'm like
suppressor, for example, right?
Great.
That's a test and evaluation on the new Nemo pistol, the AR-15 pistol that I'm going to be moving around all over the country with. That is for the tour this year. That's my demo pistol, and that's the one that's going to have that suppressor on it. And again, it's all part of that process, right?
For sure.
Very cool. Very cool. Is I've never 3D printed anything. I've seen some of the ones that you've done. Obviously you've been doing this for a while. I think I would freak out that the plastic is gonna not work. Like
Well,
that kind of freaks me out a little bit, you know?
there were a lot of guys that said that in 1986 when the Glock 17 was brought into the country, right?
That's right.
So the nylon 66. I mean, plastics and guns have been friends for a long time now, right? And I think if somebody said to you, right, and I'd be a little facetious, but honestly, if a gun novice or someone who was strange to guns came to you and said, "But Charlie, that gun's made of plastic," you would point to all the parts of the Glock that are metal, right? And particularly the barrel and the bolt face, the breech face. So you would the breech face. You would point to, well, where the explosion is actually inside of the metal part, and then the bullety thing goes down this metal tube, and the gases then come out, and it's really not that big a deal. The plastic part doesn't touch where the explodey things are happening, and that's the truth of all of my. Well, that's not 100% true. Almost all of my 3D printing with firearms has used traditionally manufactured barrels to contain the explosions, and almost all of them have used traditionally manufactured slides or uppers as well. I mean, you can see over my shoulder that orange AR-15 upper is a printed upper, but that still has a regular traditionally manufactured barrel, which has the chamber, and the bolt face, the bolt carrier group is all traditionally manufactured as well. So as long as the gun's in battery, which it's supposed to be when it fires, the plastic is not actually responsible for containing the explosion. Now, certainly you could still have splintering, things like that, like if your print isn't good. And that's why at the Gunmakers match, we have the guys from the I.C.E, the Are We Cool Yet 3D printing community, guys that are really experienced in printing at a technical inspection station. They inspect all the printed guns, and they know what they're looking for as far as defects, or cracks, or weaknesses. We make everybody wear gloves if they're shooting 3D printed guns. We make everybody wear long sleeves if they're shooting 3D printed guns, just to protect against some of those minor things that might happen.
Now, did that come about because something happened? You know, like laws usually happen because somebody did something stupid. Did something happen, or are you just thinking ahead?
I've been running ranges for 20 years. That's what happened, right? Like
but it's no different than, I mean, the plastic isn't the reason why you're having them do that. Then you're just
I did it because I guess one of the real answer is like I can see where a lot of people, and there were people involved that had never been running ranges or never been responsible for 10 people on a range, let alone 200 people on a range, and who said, well, do we really need to do that? Like, it's just going to be a scratch or a cut. And you got to remember, the Gunmakers match has 2 missions. The first mission is to create an opportunity for private gun makers to get together, have fun with their creations, compare notes, share ideas, improve the art, push each other to go further with the art and the craftsmanship of private gun making, and just enjoy it in a community kind of way. The other side of that is celebrating that opportunity. So it's creating the opportunity for that to happen, and then getting as much attention inside the gun world and outside the gun world on the private gun making hobby in a positive, responsible, and safe way. So even the little bit of a plastic splinter that gets into your arm or something, or into your hand or something like that, or you're shooting an AR and some of the plastic gets in your arm, that would be a big potential black eye, because somebody's going to exploit that, right? It's going to be like, oh, some of the shooters were injured by their own creation. So doing risk mitigation is part of running a range, and that's why those things were in there. There are some people who will tell you, yes, that's a best practice, and they always wear gloves when they shoot their 3D printed guns. I don't always wear gloves when I shoot my 3D printed guns, but if I were shooting a 3D printed gun in the Gunmakers match, I'd be wearing gloves and long sleeves, because that's the rules, just because we're doing extra risk mitigation for all the reasons that are political, as well as just who wants to get pieces of plastic in their arm.
Gotcha. All right, Mark Lindblom, let's go back to his question. Yeah, he asked, how are you liking the Shadow System pistols?
I like them a lot.
These are not the pistols you're looking for.
There's a reason that one's within reach. I like them a lot. I'm very impressed, and especially that 920L design. The way it's configured with the longer slide, heavier slide, shorter grip. I love that configuration for a carry gun. It really is. It's the classiest, best built, most impressive Glock type firearm that I've ever owned. So I'm really happy with them. I'm impressed with what they do. I get it. It's people look at it and they say, oh, gee, that's expensive for what it is. But it's really not. When you look at all the tweaks and the design implementations they've done and the upgrades, essentially it comes with a lot of the upgrades people make. I mean, I've certainly seen much more expensive Glock style firearms or even just upgraded Glocks being sold by some other companies that I don't think come anywhere near that in fit or finish, and certainly not value if they're $1,500, $2,000 guns instead of $800 guns. So yeah, I've been really happy with them. Very impressed.
I've been thinking about doing 80% lower for Glocks because for the UTM guns, UTM conversion kits.
Yeah.
I was thinking of doing that to be able to speed up the process versus having to purchase a gun and put a serial number or get one with a serial number, put it on my pistol license, yada yada yada. So if I did an 80% lower and kept it on the FFL, that's what I'm kind of thinking.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not 100% sure the nuance in New York. Do you have the option of privately making a gun? And you're talking about under the 07. You're talking about marking it under the 07.
Right, but yes, you can in New York. But if you make it, then once it's completely drilled out, then you have to put a serial number on it, and you have to have it added to your pistol license. So it's
okay, and that's like Massachusetts is the same way. So yeah, I would not hesitate to do that at all. Now I do not carry any of my privately made guns. I don't stage them for defense. I don't advocate people doing that. I think that there's some potential political fallout as well as just, hey, I'd rather carry the gun made by a company that does it professionally, and I know the difference obviously as an 07 and as a private gun maker. And I've seen some of the best private gun makers in the world at these gun makers matches. There's some very high quality things. I've got 3D printed guns that have shot well over 3,000 rounds. One's definitely over 3,000 rounds for sure, a handgun. And I've got the polymer 80 kits. Those, I get it, like durability wise. If you get them functioning, there really shouldn't be any difference between them and a typical Glock type firearm. But I still recommend people use traditionally manufactured guns for defensive use. Asterisk, the training aspect, throwing a polymer 80 lower on the training aspect for a UTM or any kind of non-lethal, I wouldn't see any problem with that at all.
Nice. Yeah, I might need to talk to you about printing some lowers then for that.
And printing as well could be a way to do it. Yeah.
That seems like that might be the quickest, cheapest way to get around it versus having to purchase.
I guess the thing you have to remember is as 07s, if we're doing it under 07, we don't have the metal plate unless you go through a couple of hoops with your 3D printing to add the metal plate. And then when it comes to the polymer 80 kits, they come with the metal plate, so you can add a serial number under the 07 or to abide by New York law. Now, I don't know what New York law says about, or Massachusetts for that matter, what they say about a gun that's all plastic. Like if you do a lower that it doesn't have a metal plate, are you allowed to mark it, serialize it in the plastic? I don't know that.
So I think Schumer came or not Schumer. I think there was a bill that was put forward in New York State because the New York State's Attorney General actually sent cease and desist on the 80% lowers, and I think they came out with a bill recently that they were trying to ban if you download the files to print your own gun, it's a misdemeanor or a felony or something like that. I
think that's a loser because it's a free, it's the old anarchist cookbook argument. It's educational information. I think that's a losing court case for them. But obviously banning
that's New York. They don't care. Yeah, New York's like that. They'll put a bill forward, they'll pass it into law, and then they'll say, well, if we know it's probably going to fail in the Supreme Court, but it's got to go through a lot of different hoops to get there, and then Supreme Court might not even give it writ of certiorari. So
right. I saw another comment. I don't know if you guys are tracking it. I saw another kind of long one come up from Warsaw. Maybe he was clarifying his really because he said I'm still waiting for, but then I couldn't see the end of it.
He says I'm still waiting for the. It's the CRS Firearms is dealing with the auto key case card. Auto key case. The feds are trying to punish and prosecute him for no crime he committed.
Yeah, I think that I understand. Vaguely understand, I guess, both arguments of what's going on there. I mean, selling something that it's like the wall hangers thing, right? Like, okay, you can sell it as a wall hanger. You know what it is, and you know what the intentions of the people, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, are to do with it. I understand why the government comes after you, right? Now, if you buy one of those wall hangers or the auto key card or a Glock switch, fully knowing what it is, and you own the gun that it can go in, should that be a crime? No. Is it all the elements of a crime as we understand the law now? Yeah. So I guess I get lost somewhere between we don't want this to be wrong and we're mad that this guy is in trouble.
Right.
Like I get the guy's in trouble, but if I go do something if I do civil disobedience, if I go do some, again, like the unregistered SBR at the state capitol and say, hey, I don't care about your laws, I think I should be able to have this, I know I'm getting arrested and I know I'm going to jail. If I then start a GoFundMe, cool. If you want to support me and I was doing overt civil disobedience, I would appreciate it. I would probably be counting on it in some way. If, on the other hand, I'm trying to do business and just saying, well, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, I'm not really selling machine gun parts, I don't know if I haven't donated to that GoFundMe.
Interesting. Before we move on, we just want to remind everyone that we are giving a Mantis X10 tonight. You have to go to meetthepressers.com/giveaway and enter the code PDN. PDN is the code, so you have to do that. And Matt is going to be collecting those and putting them in a randomizer. And Rob is going to pick a number, and the winner is going to get a $250 Mantis X10.
PDN stands for Personal Defense Network, doesn't it?
It does stand for Personal Defense Network. The PDN. Did you see the background that we have here?
I did. I can see it. I see just it's sneaking in between on my screen. I see 10th annual training tour.
Yes.
And it's I technically I was called out on my grammar there, I guess, because it's not the 10th annual because we did have to cancel the tour in 2020. It's the 10th year of the train. It's the 10th training
Semantics.
tour. But technically, the training tour really started in 2008. It's just been the Personal Defense Network training tour for 10 years.
Gotcha. I'm staying with the tour theme for a second here. I'm completely bowled over that I see you on social media popping up like, hey, I'm in Colorado. And the next day you're like, hey, I'm in Texas. The next day you're like, hey, I'm in Florida. I'm like, how the hell does he do this? Does he have a driver? Is he sponsored by Red Bull and he's got an IV of Red Bull?
My left knee is occasionally my driver. I make that I don't text and drive. I'm texting with my thumbs, driving with my knee. Totally different. I gave up caffeine about 7 or 8 weeks ago. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was kind of a big deal. Because I was like 4 or 5 Monsters, Red Bulls, whatever a day. Like
that's a lot.
So we'll see now. The tour is just getting started, right? So the question is, am I really going to keep this up? It's been the slow time of year, but so I'm off caffeine, and mostly, I guess I'm just mad that Monster and Red Bull have never tried to sponsor me. State's Coach is faster. What does PNW even know what he's talking about? State's Coach is faster.
No, I call my car the Stagecoach.
Oh, I know, but is that even a Hemi? What is in there? What do you got?
It's just a 6-cylinder, man. That's all.
Yeah,
it doesn't even have all-wheel drive. Okay,
the last official PDN tour truck was a BMW X6M with 560 horsepower. Like I'll race the Stagecoach any day.
That's pretty cool, man. I see you with the, you're getting the tour vehicle and you're getting it all, vinyl wrapped with all the sponsors and stuff. And I'm like, man, that's what I want to do with my car.
I'm over. Like this year, I'm not doing a wrap this year. The last year I did a wrap was 2019. What I found is because, I've got my younger daughter, she's in school now in Colorado. So that's one of the reasons I bounce around a lot. So this year's tour is set up more like little clover leaves. It's more like I'll go somewhere and then I'll do 2 or 3 weeks, or really at this point, like a week and a half, maximum 2.5 weeks training in one area. And then I'll jump back to Colorado for a week or so. And I'll jump back out to the next place. But remember, the tour isn't just me too. At this point, we've got 9 other instructors on the tour this year. Some of them are teaching 4 or 5 classes. Some of them will be doing 20 or 30 classes.
Nice.
So we'll have over 120 events on the tour in 6 months. And we'll be, I think, close to 40 different venues at this point. And sometimes we're overlapping. Like I know at Kevin Dixie's Train and Learn event, for example, he's one of our tour instructors. I'll be there. I think Ryan Hoover is going to be there, also one of our tour instructors, and Barrett Kendrick, who people know from Personal Events Network's training talk show. Done a lot of work with USCCA, been with PDN, been with me for a long time. He's going to be there as well. So, that's an example. I think Jarrah Hutchins will be there. So that's actually 5 of the tour instructors will be in one place Memorial Day weekend.
All right. So we've got a few comments here we got to catch up on. So Mark said that he did an estate sale and found got 25 plus PDN DVDs. So
nice.
I've got 5,000 in a building right over there. Any DVDs, Mark. I hopefully it's not going to be an estate sale anytime soon, but they're the archives.
And we've got to pop Clint in here because Clint's already said twice. Don't forget to remind everybody he's hosting. He's doing a PDN tour on June 18th, right?
Yep.
And obviously 5th annual National Trainer Teacher Day. So if you're an instructor, awesome. nationaltrainerteacherday.com so that you can get involved with that and help educate teachers.
Clint is super big. Clint's been a part of PDN for a long time. He's been hosting my classes for a long time. Mm-hmm. He's now one of the lead instructor team guys at USCCA, and USCCA's Live Fire program is my IDS program. We wrote that curriculum in 2017-18. He's now one of the lead guys running around the country making new instructors in the DSF program, and obviously he's busy with the tour. Clint's, he's you guys know he's one of the greatest guys in the industry. He's always busy. He's running around more than I am this year. Probably USCCA has got him moving.
Yeah, he is on the go.
I was saying that to him when I was down there. I was down there teaching a pepper spray and UTM course last month, and I stayed at Clint's and we hung out.
Donnie wants to know if Matt is giving away the Tommy. I figured that would be a hard no.
That is not. No, I want to convert that to a full auto once I have my. Oh, you want to come out and shoot it, Donnie? Donnie's local. He's one of my students. So
very cool. All right. So Warsaw Patriot says
nobody's asking to take my 3D printed SVTR. They're like, I don't know about that plastic.
Right. See, my concern with the 3D printed guns is I'm not mechanically inclined. When I was in high school, I did the auto shop class, and we had to bring in a lawnmower that didn't work and take it apart and put it together. I brought in a lawnmower that didn't work, and I brought it out in a box 9 weeks later. So, what's the Dirty Harry? A good man's got to know his limits.
Yeah,
that's my limit, man. That is my limit.
I have learned as an adult a lot about. A lot of things, including the gun building and the mechanical stuff. Like I would have been with you in the shop class. Like I did not do that. I in wood shop, I made a rifle stock for a bolt action 22. Nice. I made the stock, and it was rough. It was not pretty when I got done. And like my Pinewood Derby cars would break like under the pressure of the downhill. But I've gotten better as an adult. So just revisit all that. Charlie.
Trampus Swanson agrees with you as far as the instructors that are on there. Good list of instructors. I agree too.
Yeah, I'm really proud of the list this year. I mean, every year it's been great, but this year we've got almost everybody's a returning instructor. The one new addition we've got is Ryan Hoover, and he's a guy that I've watched what he's done. We've actually been kind of circling in each other's orbits for quite some time because he does a lot of work with Aaron Giannetti, who's the co-owner of the Endeavor Defense and Fitness in Ohio, the gym that we started almost 10 years ago now. And they've done a lot of collaborative work together. And Ryan actually hosted one of my classes probably 5 years ago for his team, but he was out of town when I came in to North Carolina to teach that class. So it's really cool to have him with us formally at PDN now.
Very cool. So Clint, wait a second here.
You're going to do that one.
Yeah. Clint is hosting Rob the first week in April, and he also says that the sheets he changed the sheets since you visited. So that's good as well.
You didn't have to. It's me. I'm coming back. So,
No, when I was there, when I visited.
Time out. You let other people stay. He lets other people stay there?
Yeah, dude.
This changes everything.
And when he told me you stayed there, I'm like, I get to stay in Rob's room?
I thought it was like my room at his place. Clint's great because he's got the classroom right at the house and everything else there too. That actually is going to be the first class I teach in my 50th year. So I'm going to turn 50 between now and then. It's going to be the first class I teach as a 50-something-er.
Wow.
Very cool.
My
Yeah.
wife reminded me yesterday that I'm 47, not 48. So that's good.
Oh, okay. That's well. So if you're
I
forgetting,
year
at least I remember what age I am, even though apparently I'm older than you.
by a little.
You young kids here. All right. So Warsaw Patriot, man, this guy, he is on top of it. He says our country would have to resort to 3D printing parts for automotive parts and other components just to survive.
I don't know what that means. I feel like he went on a tangent.
I think so. It may be a 3D printing tangent, but he also
I mean,
says this.
to be fair, F1, like Formula One race cars, 3D print their parts, so that would be actually really cool if I could 3D print like upgrade parts for my turbos. That would be amazing. So celebrate that.
That would be pretty cool. That would be cool.
All right, I want to get a printer. So what do we? What anybody out there listening and watching? What kind of printer would you suggest as an entry printer to be able to start printing stuff?
You just want to wait for the comments to fill up, or you want me to give you my amateur opinion?
Well, let's hear what you got. You bought one a couple years ago, right?
Get an Ender 5 Pro.
Yeah, I think that's what you told me when I asked you to.
Yeah, and the only reason you get a Pro is because it's quieter. The Ender 5 is where I would tell people to go. I've got 3 of them now. I've got this monstrosity back here, which is a friend of mine put this together. It's
Patrick Collins on top of it. He suggests a Hewlett Packard.
Oh yeah, there you go. You know, you got $300,000 or $400,000 laying around. Print metal. I mean, this is the metal printed thing.
Really?
Yeah. So you can go that route for sure. It's pretty cool.
Wow.
And then you can do F1 parts apparently as well. But on the other hand, the Ender 5 Pro is like $300, right? So
that ain't bad. That's actually not bad at all. In the material. And look, I mean, for $300, that's cheaper than a gun, and then materials aren't that expensive, correct?
Materials aren't expensive. You know, like I said, you got to remember, like you're either putting a lot of work in, and you're gonna do some welding and things like that if you really want to make a 100% homemade gun. On the other hand, if you want to just make the frames and add the traditionally manufactured firearm parts, you can do it's $5 worth of plastic stuff to print out the frame.
Wow.
But then you got, $60, $75 for your lower parts kit, and you've got $300 or $400 for your barrel and slide and all the parts that go into that. So you're still spending, like, you don't get into 3D printing guns to save money by any stretch. You don't get into, I don't even think you really get into polymer 80 kits to save money. To me, it's about the art and the fun and the craft and the kind of pride. I do a lot of customization to the files when I print them, the handgun stuff, and I've done some development work to try to make some of my own designs that have been, I'm not good at CAD. I don't have the patience for that, but I've got a few things I played with, and it's fun. It's fun tinkering. It's kind of like, I don't know, fitting a stock in the olden days, right? Like doing the woodworking and then refinishing it and trying to get a stock so it fits your contours better. Same kind of thing, except now I can do it in CAD, and I can print a grip that has swells and grooves and things like that just fit my hand better. And it's a unique design to me, even though I'm not messing with the internals, because there's guys that are way better at the design and engineering and CAD work than I am that do the internal surfaces so that the parts will fit.
Very cool.
As you're saying that, it makes me think of, I was out working in the garden earlier and doing a bunch of farm work, and got bees and I've got chickens, and we're going to get goats. And I'm thinking, I'm not doing this to make money. And prior to like COVID, it was like, I'm doing it because I like it, and I know where my food comes from and stuff like that. And now I'm doing it because the shelves are bare and things are kind of not available. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I'm kind of doing it in case the world goes to shit.
I think that's a lot of this is like that too, right? So at the end of the day, like it's way easier for me to go buy a gun or whatever than it is to make a gun if I need a gun. And as I said earlier, if I of all the pieces, parts, half built, 3D printed kit, whatever, I'm grabbing one of the Canik Torg loaner guns or that Shadow Systems Glock style gun before I'm picking up something I built, unless the only option I have is building something and creating it off the 3D printer, in which case now I have that skill. Honestly, like the skill to like raise chickens, goats, and grow your own food is probably like way more valuable than me building my 730th gun. But that's because I have 729 other guns, right?
You bring the guns here, and I'll provide the food, and we'll hold the fort down if the zombie apocalypse happens.
Some guy posted the other day something. We were talking about how I bounce around all the time, right? And some guy was like, I don't know, you put something about prepping or stockpiling or whatever at home, and get your propane tanks filled now while you can. And I was just kind of like, I said some smart comment in his, smart alecky comment, and he came back. He goes, "Oh, come on, I know you prep, Rob. You're an aware guy. You're ready to go." And I was like, "Bro, I'm too nomadic to the chances of me being wherever my stockpile would be are like slim and none at any given moment. I'm just cataloging where all you guys have the stuff."
Yeah, I'm moving now. I'm moving.
That's my tactic.
Yeah, I used to tell people, something happened and they'd be like, "Oh, you a bunch of guns. We're going to come over to your house." I would always pat them on the stomach and say, "Fatten up, because we will kill you and eat you."
Tasty. You're like that. You get the shakes if you eat people.
That's kind of what the game plan was. Like, if you're not going to be useful, don't come by. Like, we'll put barbecue on and that'll be good.
See, I'm totally willing to like recruit like the team and like equip the people or whatever. But again, to me, it's like, how many rounds am I going to put in one of the trucks I'm going to drive around? Because I doubt I'm sitting still at any of the locations I've got. I'm not just like sitting still in the suburbs of Denver, like hoping, right?
Right. Yeah. So Trampus asked here.
I
I
was trying to help you out.
No, I got it.
All right, take it.
So Trampus wants to know where you see 3D printing in the next couple of years. By the way, speaking of Trampus is the publisher of Armed Lifestyle Magazine, which is a magazine a number of people are contributing to. I know I am. I know Rob is. You are too, Matt?
I am too. Yep.
So Trampus is a good friend. Everyone should check out the Armed Lifestyle Magazine online.
For sure.
It's a free magazine. It's chock full of information and a lot of great articles. Anyway, so Trampus wants to know where you see 3D printing in the next 5 years. Is it gonna be banned, or is it going to expand into more things?
It's going to expand. I mean, and I don't just 3D print gun stuff, right? And a lot of people have said this, and will tell you this, like there's the part for this, or the wedge to put here, or the
right.
I don't have a spacer for this. Let me print one really quick. There's all kinds of things you can do around the house that are really simple. I've actually got a tiny. People can take a look at it later. There's a printer called a toy box. Literally, I got it for my 6-year-old for Christmas. She has an app on her phone. She can design toys or download different shapes or whatever, cars, and it prints multiple parts. She can pick different colors. She knows how to load the machine with different colored filaments. I mean, she's making her own toys. I'm making stuff around the house, plus all the gun parts. I think it's going to be the fax machine or the printer or whatever, the microwave maybe. It's going to be a household tool that more and more people have over the years, and then also it will continue to be used for firearms. I think that there are some ways that the activity around firearms could potentially be regulated, especially at the state level, as we're seeing it around the country. And then I think we overturn those laws in court and we win the freedoms back as we need to. But my concerns aren't around the idea that like 3D printers are going away. My concerns honestly aren't even around objects being banned. It's much more about the registration and the serialization. I'm far more concerned we're going to see national move like New York or Massachusetts or California has when it comes to privately made guns. Then they're just going to say you can't do it. Like Denver has done that, and they put themselves in real jeopardy. Like at my house in Denver right now, I can't possess, make, any unserialized guns. And they just sort of did that arbitrarily in January without any recourse to any of us who had them for any kind of, obviously, I'm not looking for compensation. I'm looking for but wait, I already got this. It was legal, and now you're just going to magically make it illegal. And they probably got some legal jeopardy there that's definitely being explored.
Mm.
Yeah, New York, they actually passed the bill making it illegal. And this was a few years ago, actually, surprisingly. The governor signed it saying that it can't be any firearm that will get past metal detectors, magnetometers.
But that's a federal law. That federal law has been around since the late 80s.
And New York State just likes making their own laws, even those federal laws. They make it even more stringent than the federal law, right?
Yeah. So it is interesting. It's a question that I don't know how many people take the question and maybe even as seriously as they should in the 3D printing community. The fact is there really aren't that many designs. You can imagine why. There aren't that many designs that don't have metal in them, right? So the idea is like you need the chamber and the barrel to be metal, right? Maybe you could do a 22 short, something that's going to, or a gun that's just going to like basically self-destruct after the first shot. But for the most part, you sort of need metal to be part of the system. So I think a lot of people have said, well, the gun can't be a functional firearm without metal, so I'm okay, even though there's this federal law. I think the reality is, as we all know, the federal law applies to the thing we define as a firearm, not the operational gun. So if you have a completely plastic receiver and there isn't a significant amount of metal necessary in that construction or present in that construction, now we have a problem. And I think one of the biggest areas we need to address from a gun rights advocacy standpoint is that law in the federal level specifically talks about magnetometers. Our sensors, if you go through TSA, you might be, if they're having a bad day, they might pull you through a magnetometer. For the most part, the scanners and the sensors that are being used on people and on stuff at the airports, that's not just a magnetometer anymore. And dense plastics show up. The shapes can be seen. So that law is really, really outdated. It was a fear-based law because Glocks were made of plastic. And it's a very outdated law in terms of what it's really looking for and the way it's defined. So I expect that's another law that we're going to see, if not just done away with, at least updated once any major court takes a close look at it.
Well, it's interesting because the senator that put the law or the bill forward to have everybody turn over their username and password for their social media accounts that I mentioned earlier is the same senator that put that untraceable gun bill through, which got signed.
Yeah, not surprising. Now, how do you feel? Like, I can't imagine that there's really going to be a turn over your username and password. It's kind of like, remember like last year, that whole HR 127, completely ridiculous law. People on the internet got all excited about it. It never had a chance of seeing the light of day. And yet people got upset about it. Is this law in New York? It's got to be like that, right?
Well, I before COVID, I went down and met with Senator Parker's legal aid, and I kind of educated them and said, listen, their goal or their thought process is that they can find out what people are going to do ahead of time and stop them. And I'm like, the state troopers, because they're putting in the hands of the state troopers. And I'm like, the state troopers are already overworked and underpaid. And you're going to put another thing in their lap when they could be out there catching criminals versus you having them sit there and scour people's face, social media stuff. Not to mention, it's going to be shot down in the Supreme Court if it gets there. And basically, by the time I left her office, she said that I made good sense and they're going to remove it from the bill. So it hasn't gone to the governor's desk yet. It's been a couple of years. I think it's in stalemate. And actually, now that we're talking about it, I'm going to look it up and see where it stands. But
has it passed the legislative body in New York?
It was in committee last I knew. It was still in the committee.
That's my thought. Like, I can't imagine it's really going to make it out of the legislature. It probably won't even make it out of committee. It just seems to me to be one of those ludicrous bills that get proposed that gets a lot of attention. Somebody gets a press conference, the internet gets all excited, but I can't imagine that being anywhere close to a governor's desk, let alone a real law.
Yeah, but they're already putting forward 50 BMG. They want to ban anything that shoots a 50 BMG as well as ballistics vests. They have both of those.
No, I can see that, right? That's one that, I think that's like, you made a list. I've been doing this forever. I'm old, right? So like, if you make a list of all the things that like are proposed by different elected officials,
right,
I think you can take 80% of them and throw them in the trash right away. They're not worth wasting your time on. It doesn't mean be complacent. It doesn't mean not look. But when you look at the list, 80% of it you can move from real quick. But that last 20% is really sketchy and scary. And I do think that a ban on 50 BMG is probably one of those things. When California banned 50 BMG, and this was going back to the mid 90s, I'm thinking, they announced it and they said, okay, you've basically got like 6 months and then we're not going to let you sell them anymore. And I actually sold my 50 BMG that I had to someone in California. So like at a fair price, a friend that, just so they could have one because they were running up against the deadline and couldn't afford retail to get one into their collection. So could that happen? Yeah, I could see New York going that route for sure.
Sure. Let's try to catch up with some comments here. Patrick Collins wants to know, does 3D printing help with the definition of a gun or a firearm in the states that are anti?
Not really. I think if I understand the question correctly, does it make it easier? Can you create, say, at the end of the day, if it launches the projectile, like the way firearm is designed, especially in state laws where it's strict, kind of like you were saying, Matt, some of the states where there's a lot of gun restriction, their laws can actually be more strict or more, let's say, creatively defined what's being banned or what's being affected inside of those states. So I'm unaware. I'm unaware of any opportunity to say, well, this thing is a gun for all of us, but it doesn't meet the legal definition of a gun. I think the only thing that comes to mind recently is like in New Jersey. New Jersey, there's a little window where braced pistols with a certain configuration, somebody realized all of a sudden a couple years ago, like these can be sold. Semi-automatic AR-15 braced pistols fall through a crack in New Jersey law that gets them around some of the other restrictions there. Because I can remember the bans going into effect there, 20 years ago. And then, like I said, a few years ago, somebody realized there was at least one manufacturer. Now I think there's several manufacturers where guys are selling them at the gun shops in New Jersey, and it's stuff that you never would have thought could be legal in Jersey, but it was because of a little technical window, and I think it's still open. But I don't know that 3D printing can really help us there.
Gotcha. I don't know if you guys remember in the movie In the Line of Fire, and that was a Clint Eastwood movie where John Malkovich wanted to assassinate the president, who was like Fred Thompson, Fred Thompson might have been the president. He was up there. Anyway,
president in several different movies.
Yeah, I think so. Right?
Say that. Yeah.
God rest his soul.
Absolutely. But John Malkovich made a gun out of wood, and then he made it out of plastic, and all it did was fire 2 rounds, and he snuck them in so he could kill the president. It was made of plastic. He got it through the metal detector because this was the 1980s, and he had the 2 rounds of 45 in a lucky rabbit's foot. And Clint Eastwood, of course, saved the day. But that's the only time we've seen a plastic gun in a movie that worked, and I don't know if it really worked then either, but
I think there's been a couple of them, and so if the question is, could I make something where I could have a Bic pen that I pull the spring out of while I'm on the airplane, and that spring would become the striker or firing pin spring, like yeah, you could make a zip gun out of plastic, but again, you still got to get the ammunition on the plane, and we're not using 1980s, a guy with a wand, right? So
right.
I think the fear that there's going to be this massive terrorism attack or assassination attempts are going to happen. I think somewhere on the list of all the things that the Secret Service is doing to keep the president alive, trying to find the plastic gun is really, it's not in the top 10.
Right.
There's a lot of other things.
There's got to be other indicators coming from the guy that's going to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's I do think it's overblown. It's kind of like, I just did a news interview this afternoon that's going to air in a couple weeks as part of a show on the illegal gun trafficking problem in the U.S. And I told him, I said, look, do we have a big problem? Is this really an epidemic? I mean, let's go like this. Every semi-automatic handgun, maybe every semi-automatic center fire firearm at this point in the United Kingdom is illegally trafficked or illegally possessed, right? So 100%, if there's 3, that 100% of their guns are illegally trafficked. In the U.S., we've got 400 million guns that we know about that are legally owned and responsibly and safely stored or used every single day. If there's 10,000 illegally trafficked guns, which I'm not saying that's okay. I'm just saying it's not an epidemic compared to the number of guns we have in the U.S. And I think that's really important to put it in perspective, right? Of all the things we're worrying about, I mean, Walk the Talk America, you guys know our spiel, right? Mike Sedini's in Vegas. He's our founder. He makes it really clear. Everybody wants to talk about October 1st, losing over 50 people to a mass shooting, a spree killing that happened at a concert. And yet every single day, that number of people take their own lives with firearms. So if we really want to talk about firearms involved death, it's not the high profile spree shooting. It's not the once in a lifetime assassination of a high profile public figure. It's the suicides that are happening every single day. And that's why magazine capacity bans, what's the capacity you need for a suicide, right? So until you go to 0, what power? Well, 50 BMG. Well, okay, but a 22 short, I can take my own life. So it's not power. It's not magazine capacity. It's not semi-automatic versus fully automatic. It's proactive mental health care and teaching responsible, safe firearms ownership and practices, including preventing unauthorized people from getting to your guns. That's where we're going to make the biggest impact. And I think a lot of people need to be reminded of that.
And the politicians, that doesn't fit their narrative, the suicide aspect of it. What fits their narrative is right, and they're using like in New York State, they're using 50 BMG as you can't harvest an animal with that; it'll destroy the meat. Well, the Second Amendment is not about hunting. Yes, that has the word bear in it, but that's not the bear our founding fathers are talking about, right?
And when's the last time a crime happened with 50 BMG?
Well, that's right, exactly. Like no,
never.
When's the last time that a crime happened with a full auto? Yet they banned bump stocks,
Well, see, now that's one I will have to say, that's one where we're seeing. I mean, there's videos on YouTube that go viral. It seems like almost every week now of guys with these the Glock switches and things like that. The auto sears and ARs. We are starting to see, this is one of the downsides of some of the stuff that happens when there's this mass social media. One guy pulls a gun out, a Glock that has an auto sear, and he sprays a parking lot, and this video goes out, over and over and over again. And now, that's happening. Well, I started looking at it, and it turns out that we are starting to see more of that stuff than we have in 10 years ago, right? If you talk to guys in law enforcement, I'm not talking about talking heads trying to run for attorney general. I'm talking about actual street cops in a lot of cities. They are seeing more of that stuff. So crimes with full auto, I get, but here's the problem: it's the crime. It's not the possession of the switch. It's not the knowledge to how to print it or how to make it. Right. It's not somebody who has an SOT or who fills out the paperwork to own a .386 gun and pays tens of thousands of dollars to have it. It's still the guy who's willing to be a criminal. And everybody who's ever shot full auto will tell you really fast, it probably doesn't make you more dangerous to anybody you're trying to hurt. The fact is, it's suppressive fire, right? It's more dangerous if you point it at the air and the bullets are going to come down somewhere than if you're trying to be precise in most cases. And that's what you see with these street shootings, and drive-bys and stuff using illegal fully automatic guns. You aren't seeing a lot of incredibly accurate concentrated fire.
Gotcha. All right, listen, I hate to be the one to do this, but we need to start wrapping things up here. I'm gonna vamp, and Matt is gonna pull up all of the people that have emailed in, and we're gonna have you pick a number so we can pick our winner. You were just talking about Walk the Talk America. I know they've got a podcast out. You've got a podcast out. I don't know if people know that you've got a podcast, but we obviously need to let people know that you do. How can you? You're a master plugger is not the right word, but
that doesn't sound right.
It doesn't. Master marketing would be good, right? So
I don't even know if that's true. So yes, I do have a new podcast. I'm excited about it. It's me trying to be short format. So it's like a 10 to 12 minute segment on training, and it's a 10 to 12 minute segment on politics or gun rights issues every 2 weeks. So that comes out every Tuesday. You can find it at robpincuspodcast.com. or any of the normal, Apple, wherever you go get your podcast. And I'm part of the Firearms Radio Network, which is fun. So Firearms Radio Network is another place to find that. Outside, and you know what? That's what we're going to do. We have put out, I've recorded 11 episodes, so it's going to be number 11, which I like that number anyway. So number 11 on the numbers.
Number 11.
Pick me.
Pick me right. Patrick's pulling here.
Number 11?
We're going with 11 because I've done 11 podcast episodes.
It's T. Brown.
T. Brown.
T. Brown. Was T. Brown in the comments?
T. Brown? I don't think so.
I don't think so, but I think T. Brown's been here before.
T. Brown is a winner.
Wait, is he disqualified because he wasn't in the comments?
No, not at all. Not at all. Because we're not looking for the info in the comments. We're looking for the email and to enter the code PDN on the email.
Cool.
So
personal PDNtrainingtour.com. That's where people need to go. PDNtrainingtour.com. They can see the classes that, like, for example, Clint is teaching. They can see the classes that Clint is hosting for me. I think he might be hosting one of our other tour instructors this year. You can learn all about our companies that are sponsoring the tour. You can get links to all kinds of educational videos. But most importantly, you can find out about the classes and the instructors there. So all the classes we offer and all the instructors at PDNtrainingtour.com.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Very cool. DJ Play Nice says that T. Brown is him.
Oh, no.
You're
giving away his pseudonym.
Right.
How many fake names can you have, Damien?
I know, right?
I just doxed him.
Boom.
Boom.
Told him near where he lives. Told him he's got a real name.
That's it. I mean, everybody's going to know him now. They're all going to go to his concerts and take his pistol classes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what else do we have? Rock on. Mark says rock on. He's here.
Please like, subscribe, share.
Yes.
Everybody know about Riding
Please do.
Shotgun with Charlie and Meet the Pressers and Personal Defense Network.
All right. So Rob got a chance to plug his stuff. What do you have going on, Matt? What's coming out with you?
I'm going to be in North Carolina teaching a UTM force-on-force civilian instructor class this weekend. So I'll be doing that on Sunday. Still got a couple seats left in that. If anybody's in the North Carolina area and wants to hop in on it, it's going to be a blast. I'm heading to Maine. I'll be up in your area, coming through your area, picking up my Massachusetts pistol license. So
very nice. Very nice.
Getting the garden in, splitting the bees off, all the farm stuff too. My hands are all soiled and calloused.
Very cool. Very cool. I put a show out this week with Val Evans, who is a gal that that used a gun in her house to protect herself, and down in Virginia. And I'm spending my weekend teaching Utah classes, but I'm also got to squeeze in editing a show. And the show I'm putting out next Tuesday, on the 5th Tuesday, is going to be with the guys from the Gun Experiment. And this is kind of a big deal because the guys at the Gun Experiment have not let their faces be made public. Oh. So this is a big I don't want to say it's a coming out party, but it's a big reveal for them.
That's awesome. I have pictures from them taking classes with me that we were like this kind of, careful about the face being shown. So that's kind of cool. Good deal. I like those guys. Yeah,
they did a class with Ben DeWalt recently, and they put their picture up, but they put an emoji face over their face. So,
it's like the neighbor there on.
Oh yeah, and what's his name? Tim.
Yeah.
Tim Allen Show, right?
Yeah.
Tool Time.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. That wasn't the name of the show, though, was it?
Tool Time Tim Show.
Tool Time with Tim. Yeah, but that's not what the show's called. I don't know. Who cares? We know.
I was going to say Full House, but it's not Full House.
It's not Full.
It's definitely not Full House.
Not at all. Not at all. All right. Well, listen. Thank you guys all. It is. It was the 80s. Full House, Fuller House. I don't know. Thank you guys all for tuning in. Please subscribe to Riding Shotgun on YouTube and Meet the Pressers and the PDN YouTube channel as well. Home Improvement.
Yes. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
I thought House Improvement. Full House Betterment.
Full House Improvement.
Yes.
That wasn't too far.
Yeah. So anyway, thank you guys for tuning in. Congratulations to T Brown, whoever T Brown really is. Matt will reach out to you via email, and we will get Mantis to send you a Mantis X10. Rob, thank you so much for being on. It's always an education. Always education. Always great to see you, and we appreciate you being on with us.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys, and I think you guys are doing a great job. The team up. Love it. You guys have a good back and forth, and I appreciate you guys independently, all the information you share, and now here together at the Meet the Pressers Riding Shotgun with Charlie collab. I love it.
It's a powerhouse.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right, guys. Have a great night. Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everybody.